everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, the International Bipolar Foundation, to discuss Carrie's latest memoir, Daddy Issues. Um, Carrie is a graphic artist and writer with bipolar disorders, and she wrote Daddy Issues about her experience growing up with a volatile father who had bipolar and whom she lost to suicide, and how accepting her own diagnosis taught her to forgive him. Carrie began her career as a feature writer for an online publication and then worked as a film and television graphic designer for 16 years. In 2021, she retired from the entertainment industry to focus on mental health advocacy and suicide prevention. She writes for BP Hope Blog, BP Magazine, NAMI, DBSA, and the Medical News Today, and many others. And you can find more information about her at her website, darknessandlight.org. Thank you so much for joining us today, Carrie.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to discuss daddy issues. And I want to know, my first question was, why did you write this book and what were your hopes for this book?
Yeah, so I wrote this book. It really started originally as a series of personal journal or diary entries. Throughout my life, I've been pretty good about, keeping a journal, keeping a diary, writing down my thoughts, reflecting on how I feel about things in the moment as I experience my life. And after years and years of not only, going through a lot of different things, but, recording them and writing down how I felt about them at the time, eventually I started realizing that I had so much written down that I had a book on my hands. And, I thought about it. Originally, my journal entries were really just meant for me for therapeutic reasons. But, I thought about it and talked to some people about it and realized that my story and, everything that I've been through might be helpful to share with other people. So I really wanted to give back to the community and, share my story to hopefully, give hope to people. And that's really what my goal is of the book, is to show that, life is possible to be, it's possible to live life happily, to live a full life, even if you live with this illness. And even if you have lived through things like growing up with a parent who had bipolar disorder or losing someone to suicide, or if you've survived a traumatic relationship. So because I kind of made it through all those things and learned a lot of lessons, I thought, if I was able to come out of these things and, a stronger, I guess, more resilient, wiser person, maybe if I share my story, it can help other people do the same.
Yeah, definitely. I love that message. And I think that just by sharing your story and helping people and reminding them that they're not alone in what they're going through, that's how we build hope and connection to help us get through all those hard moments. And so how did writing this book help you process your experience living with bipolar and living with a parent with bipolar disorder?
Yeah. So for me as a whole, I feel like the entire process of writing the book was ultimately what helped me forgive my dad. Obviously, the book goes into a lot more detail, but growing up with, a parent who had bipolar, who was unpredictable, who could be really volatile, I had a lot of complicated emotions. I felt like a desperate need for his attention and love, and yet I was angry and resentful at him at the same time. And really like doing things like writing my journal, but then of course turning it into a book and reliving, I guess, everything, but looking at everything with fresh eyes really helped me understand him a little bit better and see things kind of from a macro point of view. And it really helped me forgive him. And also just reflecting on even small things that I forgot about, just kind of digging through my past to tell stories and share everything, and not quite re-experiencing it, but putting myself back there in that moment and thinking about how did I feel and what did I do. I learned a lot about myself just through writing, and reflecting and coming to terms with my own illness and going, oh, I never thought about that. But when I did that thing, that was probably me having a manic episode or, something along those lines. So it helped me learn more about myself and my dad and forgive him.
Well, that's awesome. I think you have a really unique experience, and your memoir is so unique because it not only speaks to people living with parents with bipolar disorder, but also people living with bipolar disorder themselves, which I know a lot of our community members have been touched in either way. So thank you so much for sharing your story and getting it out there. Do you have any
Pleasure.
recommendations for others who want to start therapeutically writing and journaling and documenting their feelings and emotions like you did?
Absolutely. So, I definitely am a huge fan of keeping a journal, keeping a diary, even if, you're not feeling well, if you're going through a depressive episode and the idea of picking up a pen or, typing something is exhausting, just maybe pick up your phone and do a quick video or draw a picture or something. But I feel like it's really important for everyone, especially who struggles with this illness and all the mixed, confusing emotions that come with it that can change on a daily basis. Keeping in touch with yourself and listening to your inner voice is really important, because I think that's really the only way we're able to heal, is if we're paying close attention to what our thoughts are, what we're feeling, and how we're experiencing the world around us. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was writing, just because I come from, I guess, a generation that writing is, one of the most, common and easiest ways to keep track of things. But nowadays, you could make videos on your phone or do all kinds of things. And who knows, you may end up turning your story into maybe not a book, but you may end up having a YouTube channel and making money doing that because you're sharing your story. um but you don't have to share it. I mean, it's really not meant for anyone but you. It's and the thing that I will say too, for me, is even before I thought about writing a book, I didn't realize how I was feeling or behaving in certain moments years ago until I went back and read. I can even see my handwriting style changes. It's like more sporadic and more frenetic. And I'm looking back on it, I'm going, I remember when I wrote that and I thought, I see the world so clearly right now. And I'm like, oh, wow, I was manic. So I think it's a really good learning tool to keep, to track your moods and pay attention to yourself. And I know for me, like, it's been incredibly helpful for me in my journey of recovery and just learning more about myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that like process, it makes me want to go pick up a journal and write right now. And I think the fact that you can share your story and share those experiences with us all makes it even more powerful. What role do you think sharing your story has in destigmatizing bipolar disorder and mental illness as a whole?
Um, I feel like, and I would hope that my story is, a way to enable people to not feel ashamed, to not only not feel alone, but to not be, ashamed of having a mental illness or having a family member who does, or a loved one or friend or whatever. Um, I told you this story before, and I definitely wanted to share it. So, I published my book and I shared it, of course, on Facebook. And I kind of forgot that I was friends with my vet, that, I have three cats. I forgot that we were friends on Facebook. I'm sure at one point we friended each other. And anyway, I went in to take my cat in for an annual exam, and my vet, out of the blue, is like, oh, by the way, I read your book. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. I wasn't even making a connection that she would see it and buy it and then read it. And she said, yeah, my daughter has bipolar disorder. And I was like, oh, really? And she's like, yeah, I'm really like thankful that you wrote this book. I feel like it's, been making it a little bit less hard for me to talk to people about it. And I mean, I had no idea. that she had a family member. So it opened up this whole dialogue between us. And then the conversation kind of turned into, she asked me, do you have any recommendations for resources where she can go and, maybe talk to people? And I said, absolutely. The Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance has local support groups and a local chapter. I've gotten a lot out of it. So she was able to learn something, able to give a resource to her daughter that will be helpful to her. And if I hadn't written the book and told my story and kept everything to myself, none of that would have happened. So I like to think that, my sharing my story is hopefully helping other people be able to open up about it, realize that if I can tell this story and if I can share these really intimate moments in my life that I'm, embarrassed of some of them or whatever, or, traumatic things I went through, that you can too, and that there's nothing to be ashamed of. So,
That is amazing. I got chills when you told that story. And so awesome. And I think that's the foundation of how we can help destigmatize mental illness, is just by sharing our story and finding connection with others, because that brings hope to all of us. So thank you so much, Carrie, for coming on here, sharing your story, and writing your book, Daddy Issues. Do you want to let the
absolutely.
audience know where they can find you or order the book?
Yeah, the best way is to go through my website. You can go to darkness, Darkness, the word, and And, the whole word spelled out, light, all one word. So it's darknessandlight.org. And I'm sure you'll put the link
Mhm.
here as well. But you can also just go directly to Amazon. If you search on Amazon for Daddy Issues, a memoir, or my name, it will come up. So yeah, I would love to, share my story with more people, and, check out my blog anyway. I write plenty of articles for lots of different places, including on my blog. I just started doing video blogging with BP Bipolar Magazine. So that's kind of a new experience. This experience and my video blogging, I'm not used to being in front of a camera, but it's really fun. And so, yeah, I'm just hoping to share my story with people and get the word out, and, you know, destigmatize mental illness.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Carrie. We're so lucky to have you today. And I'll leave the link to find more about Carrie and to order her book in the comments down below.
Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. You guys are a wonderful organization. So thank you.